What's up guys, back here with a small repair, Volkswagen Tiguan bumper, front and rear. Body guys pretty much sanded the scratches out, so I'm gonna prime them up and paint them, and I'll show you how to blend them out. Let's do it. Alright, jumping straight into it. Body guys pretty much sanded all the scratches out with 240, 320. So we'll scuff up the rest of the areas that are not scuffed, the shiny areas, and then we'll 800 them, and we'll get this whole bumper ready for primer so we can prime it, and then we'll be able to paint it. I like to scuff my blend panels with red Scotch-Brite. If you're new to this, you should maybe try gray because it's real easy to burn through the paint. So I'll just hit these areas with some red Scotch-Brite like so. And once this is all done, I'll come back with some 800 and we can sand it down. All right, pretty much got these hand sanded, red Scotch-Brite. I'm gonna go ahead and sand the rest with 800. If you think hand sanding one bumper is fun, try hand sanding two bumpers. Super fun. So I'm gonna hit these with 800, the parts that are not already sanded, and then come back to you. And then I'm gonna use my 800 grit, 6-inch orbital DA. Alrighty, that went so much faster. Make sure you have a interface pad on your DAs so you can conform around those edges without burning through, just a helpful hint. So as you see, we got it all dulled out and sanded down, so we're gonna hit it with some wax and grease remover, and then we'll throw some tape on it and we can prime it. If you see this tape on my butt, man, mind your business. I ripped my pants and I forgot to throw these away. Had to throw some Q1 tape on them jokers. Sad part is I make more than enough money to go buy some more. It's just, Carhartts are like, these shorts are like $40 a piece first off, and that was probably a year or two when I bought them, so no telling how much they rose in this economy. They're probably like $98 a pair now. Like, went to go buy a McMuffin the other day, it was like $7 almost just for the sandwich, and I'm like, $3 for a hash brown? I almost lost my shit. I ain't gonna lie, I feel bad for kids nowadays trying to work minimum wage. Because there ain't no way you can live off of that, bro. I couldn't, at least. We have a little bit more expensive taste. Give her a quick wipe. We'll grab some tape, prime her up, sand her down, and throw her in the boot. Take some of this Q1 tape, make some folded edge with our leg. We'll just throw it on here to keep it from going too far down the edge of the bumper. If you ever wonder what I'm doing, I'm always make folded edge tape with my leg. And that just prevents a hard line, because hard lines can either show in the paint and they can be a bit difficult to get out. Throw a few pieces of paper on it. For UV, I got this Sickens Auto Surfacer UV. Normally I have Spies Hector, I think it's like 9002 or 3. 9,000, I think 9002 might be the aerosol, 9003 might be the actual pint or liter, whatever you want to call it. But so like Sickens, DuPont, Chromax, a lot of other brands are Exalta. Exalta owns all of them and they're all the same. So I could use multiple products for these jobs. So that's why I like Spies Hector as well. Got my 1.4 Sadajet 100B HVLP, and I'm gonna just throw probably 2 to 3 coats on, and then we'll flash with the UV light about probably 2 minutes since this is so big. That one probably I'll flash probably a minute in between each coat, and then we'll just go from there. UV primer doesn't really overspray like catalyzed primer, so I got just 18-inch paper, which is about 3 feet. So that's probably about as far as it'll go. So like again, I'll flash this for about a minute. Well, this one probably 2 minutes, 1 minute each side. With the UV light, I'll flash that whole thing probably for a minute or two. And then you just want to make sure the UV is fully cured before putting on a second coat. And then you just take the back of your nail and see if it leaves an impression. But I'll show you how to do that here in about 2 seconds. Got the UV light on it. I'm using my Dent Fix UV light. probably gonna have to move it in sections since I don't have a real big one to do an entire panel at once. So I'll go ahead and put 3 coats of this on. And like I said, I'll let it flash about a minute in between each coat, probably 2 minutes with the curing light. And then I'll come back to you when I'm ready to sand it. All right, once that's all cured, you can tell by really taking your nail to the back of it. As long as your nail doesn't dig into it or anything, or it doesn't feel soft, it should be ready to sand. I'm gonna just take some 500 grit on my orbital DA and then run it all over the primer. It should be okay. I might block the front of that a little bit just to make sure it's completely smooth, but this, you shouldn't have to block anything since there's not any mud. And then when you're done running 500 grit over it with the DA, just grab some red Scotch-Brite. Make sure you get all the texture out. And all texture is whatever looks like orange peel. You just want to make sure this looks completely smooth and feel completely smooth, because that'll just leave your paint job that much smoother as well. For this one, I'll just take 320 on a hard block, run over real quick just to make sure everything's completely smooth, and then finish off with 500 grit on the DA. All right, I'm pretty much ready for paint. I'm gonna blow these off and clean them up. This bumper probably does need some body work, but obviously the body guys didn't get paid enough to do body work, so I blocked it out as best as I could. I had a few breakthroughs, but they're really, really smooth, so I can just hit those with etch. Normally, if you have breakthroughs with plastic, it's not a big deal. Just make sure the plastic itself is not rough. If it is, you can wet sand it with like 800 or throw a little bit more primer on it. So this is completely smooth. I blow it off, clean it off, and get it ready for paint. After blowing it off, we'll go wax and grease remover. And microfiber rag. Whenever you wipe it down, you want to look everything over with your eyes and make sure everything is completely sanded. If you see anything you don't like, do not be afraid to stop and hit it. I might not like sanding bumpers, but one thing I do not like even more is sanding bumpers twice because I messed up the first time. You know what I mean? So it's just better to do it right the first time. Then a little bit of glass cleaner and we'll be ready for paint. All right, we got everything all scuffed up and in the booth. Next and final, I like to hit it with my waterborne cleaner for the final wipe down and make sure there's not any extra debris, fingerprints, or anything that's not on there that isn't supposed to be on there. I like to do one rag wet and one rag dry with a wipe on, wipe off process. So I'll get one rag really, really wet, and then I'll start wiping it on. And then before that can dehydrate completely, I wipe it off. I like using these beige crystal tech rags. The name of it is a crystal tech rag, and obviously the color of it is beige. And I like to wipe down my projects to make sure there's no extra dust particles, and this just helps keep my job that much cleaner. And then lastly, anti-stat gun. So we'll throw a few edge over the bare spots, the cut throughs on the primer, and that's just to ensure that we have a smooth surface. It's not really needed, but it's just being proactive and not reactive. Give it a nice thin coat. For sealer, I have my Jet 5500 130. This is Spies Hector 5650 waterborne sealer. Sun Pro Light. I'm gonna do about one coat of the sealer. I like doing the sealer because it helps my base cover a whole lot faster, and then it also helps cover anything that I might have missed, like small sand scratches or whatnot. Now that we got the sealer on, we'll let that flash off, and then we can come back with our base, and we can apply that next. Once our sealer's all dehydrated, take our green Centaur Attack rag. You gotta pull these apart to activate them. And then we're just gonna wipe down any overspray that might have gone to the edge of the bumper, and immediately follow that up with the anti-stack gun. So first we need to put on wet bed in order to put on the blue metallic, and then wet bed is just a clear base coat that helps anything that falls in the air or falls from the air and lands on the bumper, and it helps it lay really, really even so it doesn't look like dirt. Wet bed can be applied with pretty much any gun. You just want to make sure it goes on there uniformly and evenly. For base coat, Luma 3 Exodus 130 tip Sun Pro Light. We'll do a reverse blending. As you've seen, I take my wet bed up to my sealer. We'll start my blend far out, and we'll come closer and closer. And as I get to the damaged area, I'll be 4 to 6 inches away, working on nothing but coverage. And I'm getting closer and closer the more I pull the trigger. So now that I'm done with my blend, I can work on nothing but coverage. So Speed Hector is 1.5 coats, so we'll do 1 coat for coverage, and then we'll do a half a coat to orientate the metallics. An orientation coat is just basically letting the metallics fall evenly onto the panel so it doesn't look modelly. With this bumper, we'll just rinse and repeat, do the same thing. So I'm gonna wet bed up to where my sealer is. Start my blend like an orientation coat really, really, really far back, and we're getting closer, pulling the trigger a lot more, till we get to the edge of our damage, and then we'll work on our regular blend. A regular blend is just flicking your arm. You don't want to stop in the center of a bumper. And blending it is just flicking your arm, as you see. That's pretty much it. Now we can come back after it dries and we can look at it to see if we like it or not and if it's ready for clear. And this is kind of what you want it to look like, silky smooth when it's all dehydrated. You don't want any dark spots, any lines, anything that you don't like. As long as it looks good when it's dry, it'll look good when you clear it. So I think we're ready for clear coat. Alrighty, and once that's all dehydrated, I'm gonna grab that green Centaur attack rag. Make sure you go ahead and wipe off your projects before you clear them. Make sure there's no dust or debris that landed on them while you walked out and mixed your clear. And then from there, you want to take your anti-stat gun because that wiping creates a static charge. And you want to make sure you blow off your project completely. All right, lastly, for clear coat, Luma Exodus Sun Pro Light. This is the 1.5 Exodus, and this is Speed Hector 8600. So this will be 2 coats, basically wet on wet, and no flash time. Appreciate it if you made it this far. Make sure you like and subscribe. Can't thank you enough. So again, this 8600 is like no flash. It's a 1.5 coat method. I do like to give it like a 30 to 60 second flash, and then I'll do my half coat. And the half coat will just be a little bit closer to the panel, and I keep a tighter overlap.